I'm Rita Morocco. Welcome into the DMV Zone. We got a lot to get to in a Fox 5 busy day here. Top 3 at 3 as we talk about everything from potentially a new mRNA flu vaccine to history being made in Chicago for the grand opening of the Obama Presidential Center. But right now, the big story of the day takes us to D.C., where we begin with a Fox 5 election alert. The Associated Press now projecting Janeese Lewis George will win the Democratic nomination for D.C. mayor. It comes hours after her main opponent, Kenny McDuffie, conceded to Lewis George with nearly 3/4 of the vote counted. Lewis George is almost 53% of the vote, while McDuffie had 36% as of today, with more than 50% of the vote. The race will not head to a second ballot in the city's first ever ranked choice vote. Lewis George speaking to reporters for the first time since the concession this afternoon.
As I've said, I want to make sure that the president understands that I am willing to work with anyone to the benefit of D.C. residents, and that includes President Trump and members of his administration. And so if the White House asks for a conversation or call, I am open to having that conversation and our call.
Book reporter at Politico, Irie Sentner, with us here. What do you make of a little bit of what she said? And obviously, after ranked choice voting not going to that second ballot, it seems as though D.C. people, especially the majority, 53% of them, voting Janeese Lewis George as potentially now, even though this is a Democratic primary, essentially mayor-elect.
Right. I mean, D.C. is so deeply Democratic that the Democratic primary is essentially just a glide path to becoming mayor. She'll be the first new mayor in more than a dozen years, and she'll also be the city's first Democratic Socialist mayor, which is not going to make President Trump happy. I know that she said that she was willing to work with the president. Obviously, every mayor of Washington needs to do that, but she has also promised that she's going to fight him forcefully if he takes steps to take further control over the city. And he has actually said that, if she becomes the mayor, which she very likely will, he's considering federalizing the city. So I think we're looking toward a bit of strife in the future.
Right. And listen, we don't know why Mayor Bowser's approval numbers had really dipped towards the end of her tenure as D.C. mayor, but she was certainly to some degree holding the line there, but also playing along with the president to try and be as copacetic as possible. There seems to be, to your point, that this relationship may not be as symbiotic as it has been with the current executive of the city.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she told me in an interview last week that if the president once again tried to federalize the Metropolitan Police like he did under Bowser, she would actually tell them to actively not take those orders, which obviously will make the president very angry. And so I think we can really expect some tension between the two of them.
What about what's next here? Because you got Kenny McDuffie, who essentially gave up his council seat now. That leaves him a little bit in limbo. And he's no stranger to leaving D.C. politics and then coming back. What do we know about what the future of the city looks with potentially a Democratic Socialist mayor here? Who is she looking to be with her to kind of usher in this new wave, politically speaking, for the District of Columbia? And also for Kenny McDuffie, what does that look like?
I mean, this new wave doesn't just end with Janeese Lewis George. I think, not all of the council races have been called, but you're seeing progressive wins across the board, and also the candidates who Mayor Bowser, showed support for, losing across the board, or likely losing across the board. So I think we can expect to see a much more progressive version of the DC government come in. There's a big question over how they're actually going to pay for those policies.
Right.
I mean, Lewis George has floated things like universal child care. She wants to build more than 70,000 housing units, and those are major promises, considering the fact that the city has a $1.1 billion budget shortfall right now.
Yeah, the politicos have drawn parallels with Zohran Mamdani and Janeese Lewis George, everything from how they ran the campaign to some of the promises. Are we seeing any of those promises already being kept in New York City or coming to fruition? And to your point, how easy or how difficult are these things, especially because she ran a campaign largely on affordability?
Right. I mean, so to your point about Zohran Mamdani, we are seeing him push forward some of his early housing policies already. He's only been in office for a few months at this point, but it will be particularly difficult, especially because, unlike New York, DC is a federal district. Congress and the president has much more control over DC than essentially anywhere else in the country. And so, even if Janeese Lewis George does what she wants to do, we're looking at a president who has a lot of power to fight back.
All right, political reporter Irie Sentner will be watching, to your point, to see if, in fact, she does deliver. But, of course, that won't be until 2027. And, of course, we'll be keeping a close eye as there's still the general election to come in November, although all eyes right now pointing to a new mayor here. And her name is Janeese Lewis George. Thank you so much. We appreciate it, Irie.